Good morning, welcome and thank you for joining us for the Solihull Chamber of Commerce virtual annual general meeting. Our AGM takes place in March every year, and in fact last year's AGM was the last physical event Solihull Chamber were able to host. It's so nice to see so many of you joining us today despite the virtual format. Just some housekeeping rules before we start. If you have any technical issues during our AGM, please use the chat box and we will do our best to resolve them. And we will end the AGM with a Q&A session with Paul Faulkner, Tony Elvin and Robert Elliot. So if you have any questions for the Solihull Chamber team, for our incoming or outgoing president, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of our screen and we will pick all of those questions up at the end. I'd now like to invite our outgoing Solihull Chamber president, Robert Elliot, to deliver his president report. Rob, over to you.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Live from my dining room with Bailey the dog on guard duty. So I'm hoping that I do not have a delivery to this house in the next hour, that is for sure. Before I go on to my report, I just have a little bit of a formality to say that our AGM is indeed a formality. It's in line with our constitution, which sets out the procedures for electing a new Solihull Chamber Council members. A notice of this AGM was sent out to all the members on the 20th of January, and the minutes of the 2020 AGM, which Lillian has referred to, were circulated alongside the AGM notice, and we will take those as read. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I say, welcome from live from my dining room, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you today. What lies ahead of us really is perhaps the most challenging period for any Chamber of Commerce. It's a period of recovery. It's a time when the Chamber ethos of to connect, to support and to grow really makes its mark and can be the difference. Today, of course, we're going to welcome a new president, new vice presidents and new members of the executive committee. The transfer window has indeed been very busy. And a fine squad has been assembled, that is for sure. For me, the last 2 years as president have been amazing. But how the 2 years could vary. When we met for the AGM in March 2020, who knew what the next 12 months would have in store? But year one was certainly a celebration of Solihull. Great events, people selling, people learning, people connecting. And all of us are inspiring others to further their careers and to build their businesses. The expo and the awards, they were highlights for me. Our networking gatherings and our events highlighting diversity, inclusion, and mental health were proof that we were recognizing the real challenges in our society. This is a great moment to thank the amazing venues we have in our borough for hosting us, and our generous sponsors for supporting us. Of course, I wish those venues well with their reopening, and I hope that everyone in Solihull can support you sensibly and safely. Now, year two has been very different, but just as rewarding. Perhaps the way we adapted to COVID, and of course to Brexit, because this has changed things greatly. Perhaps it proved the strength of our chamber, as we informed, we supported, we connected people who might have been experiencing some significant challenges in their businesses and of course in their families. One thing we continue to do is to celebrate Solihull, and the virtual awards in October just proved that the show must go on. We can still surprise people. We can still scare the neighbours. Sorry about that, Mick. But most importantly, we're able to recognise fantastic achievement. I also feel that we've built some valuable relationships with our partner organisations, the Solihull Bid, the LEP, the Federation of Small Businesses, and of course, Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council. Joining the Mayor and the leader of the council on a civic visit to our twin region in Germany, MTK, was an experience that I will always remember. And it proved, if there is any doubt, that the Chamber is working with the interests of the borough at heart. We, of course, have also recognised and supported two fantastic charities, the Solihull Hospital Charity and Arrive Alive. Now it's time for me to hang up my medal, but no, you're not having it back. But I think perhaps some couriers might be arriving soon at an office near you, Tony, who knows? But many people have supported my presidency. They've listened to my ideas, they've kept my feet on the ground, they've helped so much happen. And often they've provided moments of humour that make me smile now still. Many too have guided me personally through some tough times, and they've continued to support me in my new career. To my wife, Claire, to James and Lucy, thank you. We'll enjoy our takeaway tomorrow to mark this occasion. To Lillian and to Samantha, thank you so much. You're my partners in crime, my go-to in a crisis. And now that I'm part of the Chamber family, you've been incredibly patient with me. You're super keen president. Paul and the incredible team at the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, thank you to you and thank you to everybody. Please express my thanks to the whole team, from reception to the floors above. Good luck in your new venture, Paul. You've been a great leader and a great friend to me, and I know Henrietta will do us proud as she takes on the role from you. And of course, to so many people who will know who they are, and some I thought I'd be able to see you on the screen, but I can't actually, but I know you're there. Thank you so much. I will never forget your generosity, your friendship, and your support. So to my VPs, my executive committee, and the fantastic Chamber of Commerce members, and of course our valued partners in Solihull, it has been the greatest honour to serve you and to work alongside you. I would go as far to say it has been a life-changing experience. Thank you. Tony, you have been a champion of Solihull and indeed our region for many years. I wish I could not be prouder to be passing the Chamber presidency to you. I wish you, your VPs and your exec, along with all the members, the very best of luck and the very best of health. To the new members of the exec, get stuck in. To the returning members, keep supporting and informing people. If you've been unlucky today, don't be held back. Still get involved. Be seen and be heard. But I ask you two things. Please keep the Eco Pledge real. And where you can, please make sure that business still engages with education. The need in those areas is greater now than it has ever been. Above all, Tony, enjoy yourself, keep smiling, keep pushing the boundaries, and Solihull Chamber of Commerce and all the members will flourish under your presidency. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert, and not just for that excellent final presidential address, but for all that you've done as a president over the past 2 years. It's been such a pleasure working with you and a real honour to have had you as our president. You've done such an incredible job in your first year on our key flagship events, introducing your presidential focus, but especially as well over the last really challenging month, 12 months, your weekly column, your weekly video messages, and your constant championing of our members has been such a tremendous support throughout such a difficult year. So thank you very much for all your contributions, your support and your passion for business, for Solihull and for the Chamber. We will miss you, but hopefully you won't be a stranger and we will still hear from you on a regular basis in Solihull.
Thank you.
So yesterday marked exactly a year since all our Chamber staff and staff of most of the organisations and businesses left the office to work from home in a bid to keep everybody safe. And unbeknown to us all, a year later, we still find ourselves largely working from home. Thankfully, there is some light at the end of the tunnel with the roadmap out of lockdown, and we're hopeful that we might be able to look ahead to some physical events, some physical Chamber events later this year. But today, I just wanted to take a brief moment to reflect on what this last virtual year has looked like for the Solihull Chamber. As all organisations, COVID has meant we've had to adapt. And the first major change was turning our events calendar into a virtual event calendar. And over the past 12 months, we've delivered 19 events in Solihull with 944 delegates, which is an average of 50 members attending each event that we put on this year. Our award celebration, as already mentioned, turned virtual as well, and was watched by 618 people, which is more than double the audience we can fit in a marquee at the Forest of Arden. We trended first on Twitter in Birmingham and 20th in the UK on the night. And I can't mention the awards without a shout out to the fantastic hosting by Tony Elvin, who had to step in very last minute after our compere had to self-isolate, something I don't think I'd ever be saying until this year. And of course, another highlight was our CEO, Paul Faulkner, who did a surprise hand delivery of our Business of the Year award to our winners, digital innovators. And keeping it virtual, our e-news has seen a staggering 804 new subscribers this year alone, meaning it now goes out to over 3,000 people every week. And our social media channels have continued to grow as well, with over 4,500 people following the Solihull Chamber on Twitter and a further 12,500 followers on Solihull Hour, which is our Twitter networking hour, which takes place every Tuesday from 7 p.m. till 8 p.m., just in case anyone here today hasn't given that a go yet. So as you can see, although it's been a challenging year, there have also been some highlights. We've adapted as best as we could to continue to connect, support and grow our members. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the unwavering support of our Executive Council, our local patrons, our Chamber team, and you, our members. So a huge thank you from me as well. I'm now going to move on to the election of officers and members of the Chamber's Executive Council for the coming 2-year term. Nomination papers were circulated to all Solihull Chamber members alongside the notice of the AGM. We'll start with the election of the Solihull Chamber's President. Robert Elliot was elected as President by the Executive Council in March 2019 for a 2-year period, which, as we know, has now come to an end, and he's therefore stepping down as President today. Following the Solihull Chamber Constitution, the GPC recommended Tony Elvin to be the next President, and I'm really delighted to now officially announce Tony Elvin was voted in unanimously by the Solihull Chamber Council and will therefore be the next President of the Solihull Chamber of Commerce for a 2-year term. So congratulations, Tony. And hopefully you've got a parcel on your desk that you can be unwrapping shortly, something that comes with the role. Under the Chamber's Constitution, Mick Westman and Stuart Watson will continue as Vice President for a 2nd year at this AGM. Tony Elvin's appointment as President has created 1 vacancy for a Vice President, and we've received 1 nomination for this vacancy. So I'm delighted to announce Eileen Schofield will take up this position as Vice President on the Solihull Chamber Executive Council for a 2-year period. Congratulations, Eileen. Under the Chamber's Constitution, Amanda Holden, Andy Cole and Stephen Rome will continue as Executive Council members for a 2nd year at this AGM. Whereas a further 7 members of the Council, namely Kevin Johns, John Callaghan, Susie Ancret, Namrita Sharma, Oliver Denton, Howard Rose and Emma O'Brien have completed their 2-year terms, creating 7 vacancies. We received 17 applications for these vacancies. And as the number of candidates has exceeded the numbers of places available, as per the Constitution, an online ballot has taken place. So I can now announce that through this ballot, the following are elected to the Executive Council for a 2-year term. Congratulations to Brett Parks from Specsavers, Emma Louise Hewitt from Sydney Mitchell, Tim Armitage from Arup, Pauline Clark from St Basil's, John Callaghan from Solihull College, Jazz Rohel from Solihull Radio, and Kevin Johns from Prime Accountants. A further 4 candidates have been selected to join the Council for a 12-month term through our co-opted seats. Joining us here are Namrita Sharma from Pink Spaghetti, Simon Hatton from Rolls-Royce, Vijay Jogja from Metro Bank, and Susie Ancret from Plum Personnel. So this brings the AGM formalities to a close, but before moving on, I would just like to take a brief moment to extend my sincere gratitude to the Council members standing down today for all their time, effort and support over the last 2 years. So a huge thank you to Howard Rose, Oliver Denton and Emma O'Brien. And of course, a final thank you to Robert Elliot standing down as our President today. I'd also like to offer my congratulations to Tony Elvin, Eileen Schofield, our 7 new Council members and our 4 co-opted members. I look forward to working with you all over the next 2 years. I now invite the incoming Solihull President to unwrap his medal And to take the virtual floor, Tony, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Thank you, Robert. So we were having a little chat, weren't we, just before? So we should have arranged something so that we should have arranged for the middle to arrive. And Lillian was getting a little bit panicked because you'd already arranged that and I didn't know. But my team had followed instructions to the letter and only brought it into me at 10:01. So very excited to open this. Wow. It's the bling that Robert has been coveting for this last 2 years. I'm very, very proud to accept this. Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to say a few words. Firstly, thank you, Lydia. Firstly, thank you to Paul Faulkner. Firstly, Paul, thank you for everything you've done for the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce. You've really transformed the organisation, brought energy and confidence to the Chamber and our region. I have no doubt that we'll still see plenty of you on the circuit. You remain a positive influence to us all. So good luck in your role. Fitting then also to congratulate Henrietta Brearley as our new CEO, succeeding Paul in just a couple of weeks. Someone for whom we'll have great hopes and offer our full support. I'm looking forward to working with Henrietta. Now, Robert Elliot, there are some synergies between our outgoing president and the one that you've got coming in, and that really stems from our hospitality backgrounds. Rob, you graduated from Norwich University of the Arts in 1991 with a BA in hospitality and headed to De Vere Hotels with their graduate scheme at the Grand in Brighton, no less, one of Britain's most iconic and loved hotels, made even more famous by the mod movie Quadrophenia. I don't know if you rocked up on your first day on your scooter, but I too worked for De Vere, but my journey with De Vere started much later, back in 2004. I have to say, back in 1990-91, when Robert was doing his thing down at the Grand in Brighton, my introduction to hospitality was working behind the bar part-time in Romford to supplement my ill-fated career as a trainee quantity surveyor. And then just a few months later, selling bar crawl tickets and rave tickets in Tenerife that summer. So a little bit of a less classy introduction to hospitality than Robert enjoyed. But that's what happens when you've got someone from Romford taking over as president. Now, Rob, you've been working in Solihull for about 7 years now, would that be correct? And I first met Rob in 2014 when he'd just taken over the sales director role at Hogarth. I was 2 years into my stint at Hotel Divan in Birmingham. Rob was an engaging presence in the room, as he is now, as you can all imagine. And as a general manager, I thought, I like this guy. I can't believe they managed to bag him at Hogarth instead of me. I bet I can't afford him. But we met several times over the years. And Robert, your reputation as a leader within the region's hospitality scene grew and grew, as we all know. You put yourself out there, not just to promote Hogarth, but to promote all of us as a region through your work with the Solihull Tourism Board and, of course, with the Solihull Chamber. Firstly as a vice president, and then over these past 2 years as a fantastic president in what have been challenging, has anyone said the word unprecedented yet? Unprecedented times. Despite the challenges you faced during this time, you've continued to put others first. You've banged the drum for our recovery, and I'm sure we'll all be familiar with the amount of times that Rob has urged us all to stay safe. Now, on returning to Solihull as Touchwood General Manager 3 years ago, it was fantastic to work with you, and I've been honoured to serve in your team as Vice President for the past 2 years. I think we'd all agree Robert has held this position with care, sincerity, good humour and great commitment. You've really put your heart and soul into this position, and you will be a tough act to follow. I won't be able to replicate the volume of thoughtful and inspiring videos that you've been firing out to the local business community on a weekly basis, but I do hope to reflect the values that you've bestowed upon the role. So on behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank you. My own association with the Solihull Chamber and the wider Chamber goes back to 2009, opening the Village Hotel in Shirley, not knowing the area and relying on the Chamber team for introductions and orientation from Jane Jackson and co. I joined a Chamber industry intel panel where we were lucky enough to pick up, we were also lucky enough to pick up a number of awards during this time, fueled somewhat bizarrely on reflection by Village Solihull being named within the top 500 hotels worldwide by TripAdvisor at one point. And that probably helped me to secure a role at Hotel Elvin's flagship hotel in Birmingham, where I worked for 6 years and had a fantastic time. There we were members of the Greater Birmingham Chamber and patrons of the ABCC, so really continued our strong links with the Chamber. Following a phone call one afternoon at Hotel Elvin, I learned that there was going to be a vacancy at Touchwood. My first thought was, well, where's Andy Cole going then? And after a phone call to Andy and catching up a couple of times, learning of his move to the NEC, how much he enjoyed his time at Touchwood, the prospect of working where I'd made my home for the past 11 years, that I thought about leaving hospitality for the first time, my career passion to do something different, much as Andy had done when leaving the Ramada some years before. So I'm so pleased I made the move. I honestly don't know anywhere else where the local stakeholders work so collaboratively, something I'm sure you've seen, Robert, something you'll be aware of, Paul, Lydia. The Chamber, the BID, the Council, the police, the educational institutions, the businesses, the mayoral office, and local politicians. It really is an incredible place to live and to work. I'm sure the pandemic has played its part too in bringing us all closer together, if not physically, then certainly in spirit and certainly virtually. And we're going to need to harness all of that and get even better at it as we head into this next period of recovery that lies ahead, doing everything we can to keep business moving and to protect the livelihoods of Solihull people and their businesses. As tough as the next few years might be, as you know, we have some unique opportunities ahead of us. The Commonwealth Games next year looming ever nearer. We know that HS2 will bring prosperity in the shape of jobs, investment, housing, and the redevelopment of town centre is hugely exciting. And who can ignore the hotbed of activity in Knoll with Loki, Jax, Glimpenel, and I might move from Shirley to Knoll so that I've got less far to walk home from Loki at night. Now, very few of us coming out of this pandemic are coming out unscathed. Touchwood has lost 10% of our stores and restaurants during this time, and we're one of the lucky shopping centres. Every challenge, though, brings us an opportunity, and one for us is that the opportunity to replace oversaturated national brands with local independents, to remove the reliance on retail, but instead support retail by diversifying our leisure offer and giving people more and more reasons to visit Solihull than somewhere else, maybe than somewhere nearer. Of the 10 businesses we've lost, we've picked up 3 replacements already and have terms agreed with another 5. There's more to come. There's more to come for all of us in Solihull as we bring more housing to the region and more demand for our services, whatever they are. Now, my priorities over the next couple of years, I guess looking more broadly, this is really a fascinating time in our history, socially. I hope it is a time of great change. The country has seen extreme political division on a number of factors and subjects, but the Chamber is an apolitical entity, and we want to work with everyone and support everyone for the benefit of the collective. But we do have a responsibility to have a voice. It's not enough to not be racist or not be sexist or not be homophobic. Every day I feel a responsibility to show what that looks like by speaking up for those around me and putting processes in place to ensure that everyone is given an equal opportunity, whether that's in my day job or as the incoming president of the Chamber. During my tenure, we will review our constitution to ensure that our Chamber Executive Committee reflects our business community. The results of any review will never be the decisions made by me, but the decisions made by you, by us, by our committee, by our members. Despite the Solihull business community being so well represented by strong female leaders, we've never had a female president, and I find that surprising. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome a new female vice president in Eileen, and those of you that know Eileen Schofield already will share our excitement at welcoming her to the VP team. We're all delighted to see the volume of interest in joining the Chamber Executive Committee, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our new members, our co-optees, and to thank those of you that were already on the committee for continuing your commitment to us. I guess the only downside of having so much interest in joining the committee was that not everybody that was willing to make that sacrifice to join the team and give their time to us could be successful. And as Robert alluded earlier, there is a place for you, and I intend to get you all involved as possible in working groups and events, helping to shape the Chamber for the future. And I hope you will apply again when the places are available next year. But what else for the next 2 years? Well, we're going to continue our support for Arrive Alive, our nominated charity, who really didn't get a fair crack of the whip during our pandemic year. Work inspiration, so important, something that's so close to your heart, Robert, that I can assure you that we won't leave behind. Continuing to support education. We have some fantastic local educational institutions. And it was one of the reasons that I didn't commute to Solihull from our last home in Northampton, but chose to move here 11 years ago for our daughter's education. It was the right decision. She left school with fantastic results and is now studying law with business at Nottingham Uni. And we would have had to pay for the same level of education had we remained in Northampton. So it's something that we should be really proud of as a region. We've just gone through a whole year of disjointed learning, no work experience, limited opportunity for our young people. We've locked them in, stopped them socialising, taken away everything from them that it means to be young. So we've got some making up to do. As we continue to progress through the exit roadmap, we must also revisit the opportunities to welcome students back into our businesses and to spend valuable time working with and inspiring tomorrow's business leaders and tomorrow's ratepayers. Sustainability, something that's very close to my heart. Touchwood are local eco-warriors of sorts. We're certified to ISO 14001 for environmental impact, for 50001 for energy management. And next Thursday night, we're very proud to pick up a gong at the Building Health Awards, where we'll be the first retail environment in the world to have secured a 2-star Fitwell healthy building rating. So if we can help inspire other businesses on that journey through Touchwood, through the Chamber, we'd be delighted to do that and support you. We'll be revisiting the Eco Pledge over this coming year. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, the priority for us as a Chamber is to keep business moving. That's what we're here for. And we are very lucky to have the incredible Lillian and Sam managing the Chamber for us. We have a dynamic exec team with some exciting additions, along with the wider Chamber, including the likes of our new Greater Birmingham Chamber CEO in Henrietta Brearley. We will be working hard for you. But as many of you already know, as individual businesses, we only get out of anything what we put in. So I urge you to get involved in events, in surveys when they come up, working groups, supporting others, spreading the word, referring business to each other, encouraging people to shop local. Our strength is in our number, and we will emerge stronger. We'll come through this together. So thank you, everybody. I'm looking forward to a great 2 years. Robert, you've been amazing. If I can come anywhere near to what you've achieved, then I'll have done a decent job. So thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you, Tony. Congratulations again. I'd like to now invite Paul Faulkner, CEO of the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, to take over the proceedings in a Q&A with Tony and Rob. If you have any questions you'd like to be included, please do share them in the Q&A box. But for now, Paul, over to you.
Thanks, Lillian. And wow, what a fantastic couple of speeches there from Robert and Tony. You know, sort of got the passion that I think is synonymous with the Solihull Chamber and the Chamber movement in general. Just, you know, really came across so well. They're also both very comprehensive, which means that a lot of the questions I jotted down, you've already covered. So certainly for everyone who is tuning in, then please do stick some questions in the chat, and in the next 20, 25 minutes or so, we'll try to get those. This is your opportunity to ask these two fine gentlemen absolutely anything. I mean, just a few bit of preamble, I guess. Definitely wanted to reiterate what Tony finished with there, and to thank Lillian and Sam for their leadership with the Chamber here in Solihull. There is a broader team who also get involved. Tony mentioned Jane Jackson, who has long been associated with Solihull and plays a broader role now, but it is a team effort. But right at the front of that are Sam and Lillian, and you know, you get that privilege to see what they do behind the scenes, and the commitment, how much it matters, how much they sort of fight the corner for Solihull and Solihull Chamber and all that's going on in the borough. And so, you know, big thanks from myself for both of them. Robert, wow, yeah, you're a force of nature. I think you are by far the nicest person in all of the West Midlands, number one. Seeing the way that you've taken on this role, you know, firstly as vice president, and the sort of the commitment, the fact that you managed to take it really seriously, which is what it deserves, but to do so always with good grace and humour, it's been an absolute joy to watch, and the role that myself and the team have to do, to be honest, is easy when you've got a president who's just so fantastic as yourself, and so engaged and providing so much sort of content and also leadership, be it in our COVID digital world or the sort of the world that was once before when we could get out and about and actually see each other. But everything you've brought has been phenomenal, and certainly the last 12 months working in hospitality, we know the impact and the challenges that it's had, and through what must have been an incredibly tough year for yourself, you never let that sort of impact your enthusiasm or your commitment to the chamber. I mean, to say it's admirable isn't really enough. I've got just absolute in awe of you, Robert, and I love that you've got to enjoy the role of the chamber so much that you went and got a job in one. Now, maybe the wrong chamber group, because obviously, we're slightly envious at Hereford and Worcester get you on a full-time basis. But I know where you live, and and so we very much hope and expect, and I'm sure we will sort of see you still playing an active role here. And so yeah, thank you, truly from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done and the way that you've done it, because that's been inspirational. Thank you also for all of the medal focus that you've given, because I'm sure it was you, wasn't it, who really we always had one medal for the main Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce president, and because of Robert's lobbying, very, very effective, we've now got more medals than you can shake a stick at, I think, but as they should be. And again, just a sign of how serious you're sort of taking the role and how we want to make it very, very real. I was pleased that Tony, I was going to say drop the medal on the table, but kind of, and then hopefully you could all hear that clunk, because they're not just sort of chocolate with a little bit of foil around them. They're actually very, very chunky and very, very real. So
it is still intact, yeah.
Yeah, go give it a bite, Tony.
Yeah. I was going to say, is it too early to kiss the badge?
No, go on. Let's see that. Come on. Hey.
Rest assured, Tony, they are quite resilient. There's been a number of occasions where my heart has sunk and I thought, oh my goodness, what's happened now? But it's actually still intact. Yeah,
I'm a bit disappointed that everyone's seen so earlier in my tenure just how clumsy I am, because I literally, luckily, there's no one in the office at the moment here in my offices at Touchwood. And the other day I'd forgotten that I'd gone for a long run in the morning before coming to work, something I don't regularly do. I just got up from my desk and hit the carpet, but there was no one around to see it. So it's disappointing that everyone saw how clumsy I was today, just taking a medal out of a packet. But I'm sure you'll see more of that.
Hey, and Tony, and indeed everyone who's involved with the committee, congratulations. Obviously taking over as president, reserve special congratulations for yourself. Not just following Robert, I know John and Kevin are on the call as well, and have an illustrious line of presidents before you, and it's great that people have stayed involved, because it really is part of that. And you touched on this, that sense of community in Solihull. I mean, you sort of you covered your background in Romford. Obviously, you're a big West Ham fan. You're a New England Patriots fan. For those who follow NFL, prolific social media enthusiast. Obviously, you mentioned Loki and your love and passion for wine as well. And I mean, your journey, you sort of touched on it for us there. But I mean, what does it come to mean for you, Tony? Because I know you are incredibly passionate about it. But what is it in particular about the area that you've lived, you've worked, you've grown, your sort of family has grown up there now? What is it that really sort of captures the sort of special nature of Solihull for you? And how do you want to, I guess, bring that into play in your role as president?
Well, it's somewhere that when we moved here 11 years, it was only going to be for a couple of years. And spent I've worked in or lived around the various home counties around London, left Essex kind of early 20s, but spent a few years down in Devon working, in Manchester. We lived in Northampton for 7 years. And we didn't expect that Solihull would be our final place to settle down. But because of the community that it is, because of how we've been made to feel so welcome, and I would extend that to the wider region as well, to Birmingham, it's just been an incredible place. And I think we've seen the wider region change over this 11 years as well. I think Solihull and Birmingham and the wider West Midlands work so more cohesively now than they did 11 years ago. Some of the sort of murmurings I heard from people that lived in Birmingham or Solihull and never the twine shall meet, but that's not the case. I think we've, as a region, we're collaborating, we're realising our strength as a collective. And when I got that phone call in the office at Hotel de Van about running a shopping centre, my first answer was, no, I'm not interested in running a shopping centre. And then they said, I asked, which one is it? And they said Touchwood. I said, oh, hang on, okay. So, Touchwood, when we were originally planning to commute from Northampton and seeing Touchwood, even 11 years ago, the high streets were struggling, but to see a town centre that was so buoyant at that time. My wife isn't a great shopper particularly, but I showed her Solihull town centre, and the area is somewhere that I felt that we should live, and hence we moved house. So, and then going back to that time, leaving Birmingham to come back to Solihull, I started then speaking. I had a 3-month notice period to work, and I started speaking to people about independent restaurants about coming to Touchwood, where I knew we had vacancies already, and they said no. Solihull doesn't want independence; it wants brands. And I said, no, that's all we've ever been given. And when you see the rate of independent businesses that have been opening and flourishing, not just in Touchwood but across Solihull and in Knowle and the like, we've been true to our word as Silhillians that we do want something different, we do want something exciting, and we've really embraced it. And more of those types of businesses will come. It's going to be so important to our recovery as well. Because if you haven't got something compelling and something that's not homogenous, then why shouldn't you just go to your nearest retail destination or town centre? I think we've got something compelling that's growing that will make people travel further to come to Solihull.
You've got to be able to differentiate, haven't you? And as you say, there's so much to sort of build on. And that you talked about collaboration, and that is what a chamber is all about, is people coming together and supporting each other, and from cross sector. And I suppose it's striking. You've mentioned sort of Knowle and Dorridge, other parts of Solihull, not just the town centre. And I know that's something that's been talked about, making sure that the chamber is covering all of the area and not just the town centre, because the offering in Solihull is broader, isn't it? And that's part of what's exciting, certainly when you also look at what's coming with Arden Cross and all HS2, etc. That's
the stimulus that's going to benefit us across the borough, because there's going to be demand for housing across the whole area. The plans for Solihull, we'll look forward to finding out more about those, but of course there's large amounts of redevelopment taking place in the town centre that will benefit those wider areas as well.
Now, Robert, I was going to ask, you had one point of advice for Tony from your 2 years as president. Is there anything that you in particular burning through that you would say to our new president to watch out for, or to make sure he does, or to we've got nearly 50 people on the call, so let's not get personal, but just general words of advice?
I would just to say, do as Lillian and Sam say, and then you'll be fine. But on a serious note, actually that is pretty serious, to be fair. On a chamber basis, what you will find is that there are a lot of people who want to help, but don't always know how to help, and don't always know the way to get to the chamber or the way to start working their organisation together with the chamber. And it's to keep listening and to keep watching and to see who's liking the text and liking the emails and liking the Twitter messages, to see, I wonder if they could work with us. And I think one of the prime examples of that was when we helped the food bank. Obviously, Touchwood were involved in the food bank in Castle Bromwich, and as a chamber, we were able to embrace that as well. And at the moment, I know that Sam is acting as the book warehouse for people who are handing books in for one of the charity activities that we're doing there. So there's so many people that can help, but sometimes don't always know the way to do it. So keep eyes and ears wide open for that. But one thing I would say, Paul, just to pick up on that HS2 Arden Cross scenario, is that one of the things that I was involved in was obviously as chair of the tourism board, Solihull Tourism Forum. And Nicola from the Crown Plaza will be taking that over. And I think in Nicola, we have a fantastic professional and ambassador for Solihull who will be taking that over. But one of the things I used to have as a bit of a motto was, particularly when we spoke about HS2 and the interchange at the NEC and that sort of thing, was that everybody used to say that we were going to be able to get to London in 47 minutes. And I turned it round straight away, and it's absolute rubbish. It means that people in London can come to Solihull in 47 minutes, and we will be the ones that will be waiting for them. So I think we are very lucky that as a borough, we have got assets, attractions, venues that are second to none. But the most important thing that we've got in Solihull is just incredible people. And Tony's going to be very lucky to be working with some of those incredible people. So keep listening. That's what I would say. Keep listening.
Yeah, well said, Robert. Yeah, and it may make some of your brethren from Romford, Tony, it'll be even quicker for them to get up here as well, won't it?
I'm not sure you want them to come up. Yeah.
One question which has been popped in the chat, and it's under 500 days now until the Commonwealth Games starts. We know that I think there's more events taking place in Solihull than anywhere else. So I suppose, number one, shouldn't we be lobbying to have it called the Solihull Games rather than Birmingham Games? We could shove Birmingham out of the way. But sort of, have you got a sense of what's going to be going on in Solihull during the games, and what would you like to sort of see? Because it will come and go very quickly, the 11 days of sport, and the sun's going to shine, the eyes of the world are going to be upon us. There's going to be so many opportunities, but it's about being ready for that, and then also making sure that when the cameras come on, that we are making the most of it, let alone the legacy that will follow. But what's your views on the games, Tony?
Well, clearly it's really exciting for the region. I think it is important that Solihull is recognised as playing their part within the games. But I also think we shouldn't lose sight of something that Manchester have done really well, is that Manchester is the name that is banded out, and you've got all the different sub-districts of Manchester. Don't really, you don't hear Bury shouting about their black pudding and all the rest of it. It's about promoting the most well-known name in the region. And I think that's the most important thing for securing business for the region going forwards and building our prominence on the global stage. I think if there's too many sub-regions clamouring to have their name ahead of the star attraction, then we lose the opportunity, perhaps dilute that opportunity, because we'll all benefit from Birmingham's greater success. And I think the success of the West Midlands Combined Authority has been our ability to work together and put some egos aside and work for our greater good that will benefit all of us. So I don't think we should necessarily, be standing, pitch side with our placard saying, actually, you're in Solihull. I think we will have an opportunity for when we get these visitors to the region to show them why they should return to Solihull. But, I think the greatest opportunity for the wider region is to make sure the games are a success for Greater Birmingham, in the same way that Greater Manchester do so well. And of course, I've seen some comments just come up there. Coventry City of Culture, again, should be a great opportunity for us in Solihull and for us to support them. Yeah, absolutely. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, it's all shining a spotlight, isn't it? And I suppose there's a part where it's about having a bit of self-confidence in Solihull. We don't need always be front and centre, because and Robert, articulated the how special the place is, and it's sort of knowing and trusting that it will come through. And as you say, don't dilute the impact of the big event, be it the games. The City of Culture is another great opportunity, and it's all happening here and around, isn't it? And there is a far greater sense of cohesion across the whole region under the combined authority. And I think that we've seen benefits everywhere for that. It's never going to be one sort of particular area, is it? And, you know, one event you wanted to watch or want to watch at the Commonwealth Games, you have to pick, you can get one golden ticket. What would it be?
It's always got to be the athletics, hasn't it? But I think something, whenever you see these types of games, it's the sports that you don't normally watch, that you would only ever watch at an Olympics or a Commonwealth Games, that are often some of the most exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next one of those might be.
A bit of Crown Green Bowls in Leamington, maybe, then.
Yeah.
Put your name on it. And we've also had a question about, I guess, charity. And it was great news to hear that we're going to stick with Arrive Alive, as you sort of say. The last year's been tough, certainly in the fundraising piece. But I know you and the exec team raised over £2,000 to the 5 kilometre for 5 days challenge at the end of last year. What other plans have you got for, or are there plans in place yet for the exec committee or the wider sort of chamber membership to help raise funds?
Well, I remember signing up for this when it was supposed to be 5K over the week. I thought, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I've not run for a couple of years, but I'll give that a go. It was going to, 1K a day, fine. And then suddenly, when it actually started to happen and it was broadcast to the public, it was 5K every day for 5 days. And then some of the nutters in the exec team even kind of doubled that. So we did a great job, raised a couple of £1,000. But I guess what I'm thinking now, rather than, if we can do that with the exec team, I mean, there's a number of people that have joined on the call now. If we were to open that up to everybody and get everybody involved and do the same thing again, but get all of our, I think this is the largest regional chamber within the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce. If we can get all of those people pounding the pavements, and maybe, Robert, you can do your bit still from the other side of town to show your legacy support. We could, double, triple that maybe.
There's going to be some physical exercise involved. So watch out, everyone.
I need a good excuse for it, yeah.
Paul, I think what we've seen there is the first presidential act of delegation as well. Did you see that? That was seamless.
Well, I saw a lot of the selfies that Tony was posting from previously. I thought, it looked fresh as a daisy. So, I mean, I'm sure, no reason we can't be doubling those 5Ks. Hey?
And Tony was running. A lot of myself, I was a walker. He was a runner, and that takes a lot more effort. So fair play to him.
And I mean, I think you make a good point, Tony, about Solihull is the largest sort of sub-chamber, I guess, in the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce family. And I mean, that's probably, the structure absolutely complements a lot of what you've been saying, and we've tried to sort of set it up. So yes, it is playing on the strengths of individual areas, be it Solihull, be it Birmingham. I know Nick Hardy from Hardy Signs, who's been our president in Burton for a number of years, is on the call as well today. And Lichfield Town, these are all, we know they're fantastic places, and when we want to promote the individuality, but it's also that recognition that collectively we are stronger, and trying to sort of break down barriers. I know Lillian's been leading some great initiatives to sort of, we've called it get to know the neighbours. And business
Brilliant.
Isn't really that fussed, is it, about boundaries, or certainly sort of artificial boundaries. We've all got a sense of place, but you want to grow, you want to do business wherever you can. And so we've tried to set the chamber up so it's very porous and people can move seamlessly around our geography that falls under this chamber's span. And I think that perfectly complements that sense of collaboration and togetherness. And I know Robert's been, and the Solihull Chamber has long been a champion of doing that and getting out and about with the other chambers, also supporting Future Faces. And Kevin Johns, when he was president, did a brilliant job in sort of instigating the Solihull wing, I guess, of Future Faces. And I know Jackie, who's FF president, is also on the call, which again shows that sense of teamwork. I mean, something for young professionals. We've seen Future Faces develop massively over the last few years, and I guess any views on how you can leverage that even more in Solihull as part of the recovery, because we know that the pandemic's probably had a disproportionate impact on on the youth, certainly those at the start of their careers. I mean, what a challenging time to be there. And I suppose the idea is something like Future Faces can be a ready-made network to help give people a springboard. But what's your views on that, Tony?
Yeah, well, I mean, the feedback from the Meet the Neighbour events, from engaging with other groups, has been fantastic. So anything that we can do to further that, perhaps we can provide some mentoring opportunities. We've got, you look at that exec team and beyond, there's some serious talent there, some years and years of experience that could be shared with some of our, young, new leaders for the region. So let's share some of that brain power around and help some of those people. Maybe we could set up a mentoring scheme across the wider chamber to support those Future Faces members.
Great. And another question here, and you touched on the importance of education, well, both of you have, from Jazz, and welcome to the committee, Jazz. Looking forward to tuning into your radio show. Is it next week when you've got a special guest on? It's a plug for a session that I recorded with Jazz last week. Anyway, but Jazz's question is just about engaging businesses with education, and sort of any key messages that you'd give to businesses in the borough on why they should engage with education, and sort of plans for helping to bridge that gap between business and education. And Robert, feel free to chime in here, because I know this is something that's been very a big passion of yours as well.
I think it's true, Paul, that we all have a massive responsibility to prepare our young people, and that starts at primary school and moves forward through the years. And I think one of the things that I've become most frustrated with over the years is that you hear expressions like our young people are not ready for work. Well, our young footballers may not be ready for the Premiership. So what do? We develop them, and we develop them through their age groups. And I think it is all about us having that responsibility to prepare people, because at the end of the day, there's it's not necessarily a generation, it's 2 or 3 years of people in education at this moment who have had an extraordinary 12 months. And so now is the time for us. We've had our education, we are learning every day, but we've had our education. It's for us now to be able to help these people. But I must say that probably goes through the entire age groups, because there will now be people in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s who have come to a little bit of a crossroads. And I think that's where organisations like the Chamber of Commerce can actually support everybody, but certainly starting with education and starting with people in the 7 years to 16 years or 18 years is the way forward. And we've got that chance to do it. We've got the resources and we've got the skill.
Well said, Robert. Tony, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about, one of the strengths of the Greater Birmingham Chamber has been our collaboration with other organisations, and I think you've really pushed that agenda, Paul. We've got Jazz, who's just joined the team with the Education Awards. I've been really proud to be involved in the judging for that. Probably anyone that went to school with me would find that quite laughable that I'm on a judging panel for Education Awards. But we've got digital innovators here at Solihull College. We already mentioned about the strength of our educational institutions. There's so many ways that we can get engaged with education to provide that inspiration to young people. And will continue to be, the Chamber will continue to play their part as a matchmaker, bringing businesses and students together to provide not just work experience, but work inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jazz, it's great that the Education Awards are sort of, housed here in Solihull. I mean, when Jazz first flagged it up to me, it's one of those ideas where you go, well, surely that already exists. Surely someone else is doing this. And the fact that they weren't, and the way Jazz has taken that on, it's been brilliant to see. And that's another thing that, and I know it's broader than just Solihull, but certainly, has the roots here. And with Jazz being on the exec committee, I think it's a real opportunity for the Solihull Chamber. Right, well, look, I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to hand back to Lily. From myself to sort of sign off, I guess. Look, the Solihull Chamber is an absolute powerhouse within the broader group and within the wider chamber network. It's been great seeing it grow and develop in my time the Chamber. I think really starting to hit its potential, and there's so much more still to come. And that's thanks to everyone who's been involved. Mentioned sort of before, I think brilliant leadership from Lillian and Sam. But the appetite amongst Solihull organisations to support and to engage is phenomenal. There's some brilliant individuals and leaders who drive that. But we've seen that in, be it the expo or the awards, or just sort of regular events, and Solihull always sort of stands out, and you can see why. The future is going to be bright because it's got that passion and that energy and that belief, and there's an awful lot going on. And I'm delighted to see you take up the role as President, Tony. I think you're a force for nature. Love working with you. Love working with you in a number of different sort of forums and etc. that we're on, and I'll always continue to support. And yeah, delighted to see that the Solihull Chamber's in safe hands going forward. So congratulations again. Congratulations to everybody who's played a part. Well done, Robert. You can give your neck a rest now. Take that medal off, and hang it on the wall. And I'm going to hand back to Lillian. I hope everyone has a really good rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Paul.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. Yes, that brings us to the end of the proceedings of the AGM. Thank you again, Rob, for an amazing 2 years. Don't be a stranger. Hopefully we will see you at our first physical events when we're able to do so. Tony, congratulations again. The hard work starts now. We've got our first meeting scheduled with the new Executive Council. So really looking forward to that. And to all our members that have joined today, thank you for your ongoing support. If you want to know anything more about the council, please feel free to reach out to Tony or myself. If you want to join any of the events, I've popped one into the chat, but of course speak to your relationship managers as well. Look forward to seeing you all soon. And again, thank you for joining. Take care.